For decades, people have been using computers in many ways, if that's for work, school, or even personal use. In those said decades, it has evolved from basic terminals like MS-DOS to advanced systems like Windows, Mac, or even Linux. And Windows at its current state sucks. This is not really big news for anybody that does not consume well of a GUI swap the elitists make. But they also don't want to deal with Microsoft's AI swap and spying anymore, so they switch to Linux. Because who the fuck would want to go to Mac? So today we'll look at the numbers to see if 2026 or the near future could be the year of the Linux desktop. First, we gotta know why people are switching, and it's all because of Windows 10, mostly with Microsoft not giving it updates anymore, and a lot of devices that run Windows 10 cannot run Windows 11 due to Microsoft's strict TPM 2.0 requirements, which TPM 2.0 only started getting added to mainstream CPUs around 2018, so even really powerful CPUs that could very clearly run Windows 11 cannot. And even if these computers could run Windows 11, they most likely wouldn't due to the bloatware that Microsoft adds. So more people and companies go to Linux due to it being very stable. That is also why Linux has been king on the server for 20 years. Hell, even 54% of Microsoft Azure servers, their own cloud platform, want Linux, literally being their own operating system. And hell, there's even governments like Denmark that are switching to Linux. And it's not just Linux, but it's also LibreOffice, an open source Microsoft Office alternative. So this is also a win for open source in general. But this is not new, because the French police have been running their own Linux distro Ubuntu since 2014, and their own distro that made the ODF file format mainstream in France. The reason for the switch is digital sovereignty. This is also due to Microsoft being based in the United States, and making your entire government run on proprietary software made from a US company is bad, especially for Denmark right now. This is also good for your tax dollars, because in most of the Western world, even if you never use Windows or Office a day in your life, if government facilities like libraries, schools, and government office buildings run Windows and Microsoft Office, you have to give money to Microsoft for your tax dollars so that they can pay for licenses for Windows and Microsoft Office, or even worse, a subscription to Office 365, whatever the hell they want to call it now. Meanwhile, Linux, you do not pay shit to install a distro, so you don't have to give your money to any of these companies, but this also applies to literally anything open source, just like LibreOffice. And it's also cheaper because you can keep older hardware for way longer than Windows, and can also create jobs for people to learn Linux, or even for a distro instead of paying extra for Microsoft or third-party support guy. And if they have enough knowledge, they can fork programs just for the government's needs instead of using whatever UI Microsoft shits out. Next is a Steam hardware survey. Even though Windows 11 is the most popular according to Steam, Linux is at 3.8%, which is more than Mac and actually more than less than a year ago. And with Arch being the most popular distro, it has grown over the years due to the Steam Deck and the future Steam machine running SteamOS, an Arch-based Linux distro, and Steam's Proton, which is a modified version of Wine. It allows even more games to run on Linux, and they can run better due to the lightweight design of Linux instead of the bloat like Windows. Who the fuck needs QuickChamp? Just use Premiere Pro, DaVinci Resolve, or even Kdenlive. Emulators also run very well, and has gone so popular that other handhelds like the Legion Go of Lenovo uses SteamOS. And the final nail in the coffin, even GOG thinks that Linux is the future of gaming. Microsoft is trying to make a handheld version of Xbox Game Pass for Asus, but let's be honest, let's see how well that goes. Next example that we're going with is StatCounter, where the US market share is 5%. And I know that might not seem like a lot, but compared to a couple years ago where it could barely get over 3%, this is really good. But it's not just America, but also Canada, India, Germany, Spain, and Italy having around the same, if not more. This shows the growth of Linux around the world and how many more people are using it. Next, we're going to look at the fucking Hub Year in Review GunaStats. Yes, it's a real thing, with 6% of users being on Linux, with a 22.4 increase from last year. So that means there's a lot of Gunas using Linux. But that might not be the case, since all of them might not be knowing that they're using Linux. Due to Linux powering a bunch of smart TVs, but they can very well be running Android as well. So we don't know that. Plus, it's banned in a lot of states, so we don't know if it's still accurate, but still. And we don't know what APIs and fingerprints that they use, so that way they can actually collect and separate the data. But hey, it's proprietary, so I guess we'll never know. Last is conclusion, and we'll talk about the future of Linux. It is most likely going to go up since the companies are getting more and more greedy by the day. For God's sake, there are subscriptions and cars now for horsepower, for fuck's sake. And they're giving the people less control over their devices and adding more spyware, especially in smart tech. So people are starting to GNU Linux and other open source operating systems and software because it's everything these companies are against. User freedom, privacy, and people actually owning their stuff. So, keep using Linux, my brothers, and I'll see you guys next time.